long, and we can just go into the rest of it once it's wrapped up. There's a bunch of people in the chat, so even if there's 10.
We're live, I think. Can everybody hear me? I assume everybody can hear me because we are live. I didn't even drop in on a song. We just went live. We're watching the end of the USC LSU game here. USC is up 20-17. Rock and I were just commenting. It's great if you have LSU or if you have USC in the 4.5 points, because unless LSU goes for 2 points here, I think we're going to be safe on that bet.
Yeah, barring a tie that brings us into a last-minute overtime game, in which case everything can change up there. But we shall see. Excellent Sunday night game, living up to the hype. With one more game to go, and all eyes will be on FSU tomorrow night. But I'm trying to watch the replay in the lower corner. Was that a catch, or are they questioning it? Did he bobble?
I think they're questioning the spot
because it was a little loose there. But
I think they're going to give him that one, considering they gave that USC receiver the amazing catch in the first quarter.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like your quintessential to call stands versus confirmed kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Whatever the play was ruled on the field.
Confirmed, yeah.
Oh, well, confirmed is legit,
Yeah, we still got one more game tomorrow. We got Florida State and Boston College, but I don't think it's going to live up to this.
No, if it does, there's going to be panic on the streets of Tallahassee.
Yeah, I would say so. And I hope that's not the case, because they got Florida State in 15.5 points.
I have Florida State as well, and basically every permutation of the picks that I'm in on our competitions online with the team and CFB Plus, whether it's a pick 'em or covering the spread. So I don't need the Noles to mess me up 2 weeks in a row.
So how's everybody doing tonight? I'm reading your chat comments. I'm sorry, I'm looking off to the left of the screen. I can't go cross or wall-eyed here to look at both at the same time, but we wanted to jump in here live just to get an honest reaction from us as this game goes down. Obviously, I'm pulling for USC as a Big Ten fan.
I'm pulling for USC, not necessarily as a Big Ten fan or a USC fan, because this is a house divided, and USC is not one of the houses in here. But I literally loathe Brian Kelly. He will never wash the stink of being a Notre Dame guy off for me, and he should have been charged years ago for what he did. So, and he just dances terribly with recruits, and I don't care if that was 3 years ago. But I would like to see SC win. I think it would be very interesting for college football, and it's only a week one hot take, and I don't think anybody's back until they win titles. But it would be interesting if, in addition to the major strong programs like Georgia and Alabama's and the Ohio States and what have you, if the sort of more urban, metropolitan schools, Miami and USC, were all kind of good at the same time. I don't think it actually happened back in the 80s, 90s, and then when Miami started to get bad, it went right into like a USC zone era for a bit. But we haven't had like USC and Miami good at the same time that Ohio State and Georgia and Alabama and Michigan, and figure out Penn State, who looked impressive the other day, were all good. Like, teams that have dominated titles over the last 50 years at the same time would be pretty friggin' amazing way to go into the playoff. And yes, I'm biased on one, but it still doesn't make it less true.
That was a good win for Miami yesterday. Good win.
TV ratings don't lie either, right? Like, eyeballs are eyeballs.
Definitely. I think it benefits all of college football when we have a strong Miami out there in a weak Florida.
Hate it, love it, doesn't matter. Like, schools that are polarizing are good for ratings and good for college football talk shows.
Yeah, I loved their former coach retweeted when Matt Baker put out that Florida fired a coach with 3 New Year's Six Bowls in 4 seasons for Billy Napier.
Flo's in the house. Hey, if you're bored, Flo, let us know. bring you on if you want.
Yeah, we're just watching the end of this game, and we're going to do some hot takes. That might not be so hot. Yeah, it was a great slate of games, though, yesterday. You know, there was between Michigan and Oregon almost losing.
Yeah, it's like so hard. You know, this first 2 weeks, and maybe because I'm looking at it a different way, it's hard to really put your hand. There's things you can see and things you really know, right? Like, Georgia is really good.
Yes.
But you also know that Dabo's a dinosaur, and how does that measure up for when they need to play Texas, right, or Alabama? Because there's a big question about Dabo, and Miami clearly was dominant against Florida, but we don't know whether Miami's great and Florida's terrible, or if there's somewhere in between yet. Like, that's just the week one fun of. Be interesting if we were starting all the rankings over from 1 to 25 without any politics of, nobody makes 15 spot leaps up or down historically in the coaches in the AP poll. What would happen if all the rankings across the board 1 to 25 started? There were teams like West Virginia who I was really disappointed in. I've always had as like a sleeper, and I thought they'd put up. I didn't think they were going to beat Penn State outright, but I thought they would cover the original opening line. That didn't happen. And Virginia Tech and Vanderbilt, like, there was something for everyone and everything, other than having the proper lighting on my green screen.
I actually stayed up late to watch the Arizona game to see if Arizona would cover, and thankfully, or unfortunately, they did not. It was 60-something to 39. They allowed some garbage time scores that kind of screwed me over on that in the college football pick'em. We're past the 2-minute warning that we no longer call a 2-minute warning for some reason. I refuse to call it the 2-minute timeout. It is a 2-minute warning. They've got a reaction shot of an LSU woman shaking her head.
Well, the memes what I would say, that the meme generation this last week or two have been awesome for college football. There's a lot of really good ones depending upon what school you're following with the fan reactions. And my annual reminder, if you haven't been following Message Board Geniuses, don't forget to do it soon because it's awesome.
Oh, we got a flag on that play. That was a pass interference. I wonder what they're going to get them on. These refs have actually called a pretty good game here so far.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure I didn't watch every single game, but I did watch a lot of college football. The opening weekend, or week 1.5, with week 0 last week, refereeing has not been as atrocious as I'm used to expecting across the board in college football. It's been fairly decent. I'm sure there's somebody who's going to feel like they got gypped by a bad call. That's just the norm of it. But it's been, fairly good before the usual suspects kind of go into the tank for the rest of the year. Maybe they just didn't draw a game opening week.
Nitwit says, imagine a Brian Kelly team not know what they were doing in the red zone at the end of a football game. Yeah.
It's so surprising. But they can light the hell out of a 360 video dancing with the recruit.
You going to go for the field goal here? Miss it. Power of positivity. Miss it.
He's no Tom Osborne.
Go wide left.
Well, it seems like, at least initially, 2024 is off to the same start. Mike Elko turned into Jimbo Elliott at Texas A&M, so Texas A&M, and Brian Kelly's got no cojones and no organization.
That Texas A&M game was heartbreaking. I mean, their defense just absolutely crumbled in the fourth quarter. I mean, their offense wasn't doing much, but that defense was good for 3 quarters and part of the fourth, and then they just crumbled. Fresno State was the same way. They crumbled in the fourth. Idaho crumbled on that 4th down call, that 4th and 7.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. I mean, Oregon still got a lot of questions there, though. That's that is one of those games that they in the middle of the season a win is a win, but in the beginning of the year when people are trying to throw their marker down, that was pretty surprising. That is a definition of a game that it's really good for them was a late game, right? Where like not a lot of people in the media are watching it. It's
Well, I
not like
think
it
it
would
was
have fun.
also it was a Big Ten network game, and you couldn't get it on the West
Right.
Coast if you were an Xfinity customer. So
Yeah, it wasn't like fundamentally going to alter the outcome of their season. It just was like what was that about? I don't know if they were looking past something. And I realized that Idaho is not necessarily like one of the bottom of the barrel draws. It wasn't like what directional state is this? South Central Nowhereville, but and there's a historical rivalry there. They've been playing for a long time, so it's not the same. But if you're they're my college football playoff championship prediction, if I recall correctly, in our pool. So I was not overly impressed with what I saw from that game.
Brett Taylor says we're at least a minute ahead of them on the game, and I'm watching live on TV, not streaming through a computer. Are you watching on over the air? I'm watching on an over the air antenna.
Yeah, I am watching with 1 minute and 47 seconds left. Where are you at?
That's where I'm at, exactly 147.
Now, granted, it's a dead ball, so like it could be 15 to 30 seconds difference. I will let everyone know when I see kickoff, when the play clock starts moving again. And if you want to pause your video listening to us so that you're behind 30 seconds so you don't hear something first, that would be my suggestion what to do. So I will tell you the minute the clock starts moving. For me, actually, there's 4 seconds left on the play clock.
I'm ahead of you, I think.
Yeah, so that's where I'm at. I'm at 147. Play clock just got paused again. So, and I am streaming wherever I am through YouTube TV.
Brett Taylor did the old tried and true solution: turn your TV off and turn it back on. Yeah, that always tends to work. You turn it on and turn it off.
The second thing is to kick it, right? Those are your two universal solutions.
Hit it with a shoe. Oregon just barely won and looked bad doing so. Michigan didn't look any better. Yeah. You had to really watch that Michigan Fresno State game. That score didn't tell the whole story. Fresno State was on the verge of making it a one-score game when they threw a bad pick six. It's like an 89-yard pick six.
There were a number of games like that, right? Where if you had to see the game to really get what the game was, not just the score. Michigan Fresno State was definitely one of those.
Ohio State wasn't any better in the first quarter. I think it was 7-3. Yeah, Rance watching on YouTube TV, so he's going to be a little behind. USC just made the first down with 35 seconds left to go on my screen.
My dogs don't really like USC, even though I'm hoping that USC wins to cover, because this is a UCLA house.
I was going to say, your wife must have trained the dogs
very well.
Oh, got away with a little shove there. Okay, yes. They're getting into field goal range. Let's hope the field goal kicker can make it, unlike the first half.
32 seconds on my clock, counting down.
At 22.
Nice play.
His dog really does not like USC people. He's being very aggressive.
She's not happy. My other dog is kind of more chill about it. It's one's used to watching football, the other one's just annoyed that it's been football all day and not something else.
DirecTV took off all the ESPN channels. I'm missing my tennis and having to watch the football game on ESPN Plus on the laptop. Bunch of corporate crap. Yeah, that sucks. I use YouTube TV, and then I've got over-the-air antenna. Shit, that's going to be a false start. False start on USC. They've still got time to probably get 2 plays called before they run a field goal out, and they still have a timeout left. So they're going to have to get to that yard. It was about the 38-yard line I had for their field goal kickers.
Yeah, you're a good 30 seconds ahead of me. Even if we're both at 18 seconds left on the clock. Well, this game is probably going overtime, barring something, and we will stick with it and chit-chat along the way and turn a little bit of moment into a watch party.
Yeah.
And then we'll chit-chat about the games and
no, we won't. Beautiful pass down to the 30 with a flag on the play. I don't know who that flag's going against. That might be a dead ball personal foul. It might be added on to the end of that catch.
Mo, you got to pause your reactions for like 7 seconds.
I'm sorry. I'll
put yourself on a 7-second mute. Like it's real radio and TV.
Targeting.
Just kidding.
If that's a confirmed targeting, that's 15 yards on the end of that catch, guys. That's going to put him well within field goal range. USC might bring the big one home for the Big Ten this weekend.
There's just something about Brian Kelly being sad that makes me so really happy. I mean, it's not quite like watching, Gators fans just give up.
Well, wasn't it last year they lost to Florida State on like the last play of the game?
They had a heartbreaker last year for I don't recall what it is.
I think it was Florida State. Like Florida State came back and beat them last year in the opening game of the year.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Ryan, much appreciated, sir. I don't have my YouTube up. You're going to have to read off who got those Rocket and Rant, unless I can get. Sorry, I was messing around in Chrome trying to get the phone system to work. Thank you so much, Ryan. Appreciate those gifted memberships. If you received one of those gifted memberships from the generous Evil Badger, make sure you thank him in the chat. If you're watching on demand, you can thank him in the comments section. Ryan, your Badgers had me a little worried yesterday. They pulled through, but got to see some improvements on that defense, man. Got it.
I'm so glad this game lived up to the hype, though.
Yeah, I didn't want a blowout. Who wants a blowout? Unless it was my team playing, then I would definitely want a blowout. But not, in the opposite direction. I was kind of hoping that they would hold Clemson to 0 points yesterday, and it would be 34-0. Just so Clemson could see how it feels.
Well, the good thing for Miami was, for all the crap we get about renting our stadium, we apparently now own one in Gainesville, so it's all good.
That's a crime. All right, let me see if I can see who gifted those memberships. Who received those
Brian Kelly
from Ryan.
Is not quite crying Jordan, but he is Jordan wasn't a basketball playing legend and was instead a coach who is detestable at times.
He looks like the old man who the cops just told him it's not his sidewalk. And like the kids in the neighborhood can play on it. Let me see. Jeff Hill, Lonely Satellite, Richard Ledford, Dark Moon, and Cougar Tail were all gifted memberships by Ryan Willie. Make sure you thank Ryan Willie in the chat. I will give you an evil laugh, Ryan, because you are an evil badger. Give you a legitness.
That was legitness. Yeah, it was.
And remind you that these are student athletes.
Student athletes. Oh, that is brilliant, sir.
Thank you so much for your continued generosity, Ryan. It means the world to us. And if USC is going to bring this one home for the Big Ten, then you know what Wisconsin has to do. How sweet would it be to see Wisconsin beat Alabama in Camp Randall?
Did they get a new quarterback since last week? I mean, since yesterday?
Oh, I'm not going to react to that, but I probably should react to that. I think we're more than safe on the cover there. We are more than safe on the cover.
Hiding from looking at chat. Thoughts and prayers, LSU.
Yeah, I swear last year it was Florida State that did this to him too. It's like Brian Kelly, week 1, can't catch a break.
Oh, there's memes being born right now.
Yeah. No need for a field goal when you score a touchdown.
But come on, they can run the kickoff back.
Don't jinx him now. Don't jinx him. He's going to jinx him, put him into overtime, and then LSU's going to score a touchdown and win or something. And I'm going to still miss the cover. Oh, you know what? I think I just made the over. No, I don't think I did make the over. Damn.
Two years ago, FSU blocked an LSU field goal, according to Michon.
Okay. That's what it was. And that was the opening game of the season. That was like either a Sunday night game or a Friday night game. Because I remember watching the game and being stoked that LSU lost. I don't know. A lot of people were talking shit about Lincoln Riley to start this season out. And
I know I must have said at least a half dozen times on various shows is like, don't, if the defensive coordinator that came over from UCLA can do anything, you know, the one thing that Lincoln Riley is good at, right, is taking up the next quarterback and developing them. Like, if you want to give him grief about anything, he does know what he's doing with quarterbacks. And if he finally realized that he can't ignore defense and going on crosstown rival and getting some, you know, a guy who overperformed on defense and, you know, paying him a boatload to move over, like, at least for game 1, you know, for hot takes week 1, it seems to have paid off, barring some miracle here in the last 8 seconds.
And you can't put this one on Nussmeier because Nussmeier has played very, very well for LSU. I will say that
has been.
Yeah, the defense for USC has been bend, not break. Now, they've broke a couple times, but they've been really good coming down the stretch here, just bending and not breaking.
Yeah, and when your defense last year was just flat out broke, that's an improvement, right?
Oh, is that an interception? Well, I probably spoiled the game for you there, Rant. Sorry. That was an interception by USC. USC is going to win that game. LSU goes down. Number 13 goes down to number 23 as the USC Trojans put together a beautiful game here to beat the LSU. Get a Big Ten win over an SEC team so we can stop with that narrative right at the beginning of the season. Ryan Willie with a $5 super chat would be okay with Lockett QB. I still believe that Tyler Van Dyke is better than Brosmer. Gave Greg so much shit. Yeah, I would. I think I talked about it on Friday. I tuned in because I knew Greg was on a delay, so I was able to watch the end of that game, let my asshole unpucker, and then I turned Greg on to see his reaction. And just, I felt his pain, you know.
I felt his pain. That was a one game that like cost me on a teaser and a parlay. and North Carolina lost their quarterback, and they still couldn't kick a field goal and still freak. I should have bet that the fireworks would go off even if they lost.
I don't think that was on the prop bet ticket, but you never know.
It should be from now on at the Super Bowl. After what happened, they should be like the fireworks go off prematurely. You should be familiar with that. You got a national title last time I saw that happen.
And I will say this, I am glad we don't play USC this year at Ohio State. By the way, big clap, cheer for the USC Trojans.
Congrats. Big win.
I sound different tonight. I don't know that I have a cold. I was working on it. You've probably got a little more bass in there because I've got the microphone right up to my mouth because we were working on the phone system prior, trying to get the phone system to work. And I'm using an app called Voice Meter, which by the time I get this phone working, guys, I'm going to be a certified audio engineer. I'm just letting you know. I mean, I've watched about 15 YouTube videos on this. I'm using extensions now. I've got cords all over the place, but at some point, I'm going to get this phone system to work correctly. Oh, Penn State at USC coming soon. Yeah, that's a good one.
That suddenly could be more, college game day, big kickoff game, depending upon how things keep playing out.
Let's see who they've got. So they've got Michigan. Oh, poor Michigan. I almost feel bad for Michigan.
Lots of lies detected.
Michigan's got Texas next week, and then they've got USC on the 21st. Now they get USC at home, but well, let's take a look at USC's schedule. They got Utah State next week. That Michigan game on the 21st. Then they have Wisconsin at home. They go to Minnesota. Penn State at home. Go to Maryland. They get Rutgers at home. That's at 11 p.m. start time game. Then they go to Washington. They get Nebraska at home. UCLA, but that's a home game for them, basically UCLA. And then they've got Notre Dame at home. Tough schedule for USC, but I mean, that might be a dark horse playoff team right there.
That was an impressive win. It's we think we know. Sometimes you're trying to figure out like who's really good versus their competition. To me, that's one of those ones where like those are two good teams, two great quarterbacks. Two quarterbacks that had great quarterback play tonight. Whether they're turn out to be great, we'll leave for another day. But really solid game, a well played game for the most part, and back and forth all game. And I saw every USC game last year. That defense that we just saw is markedly better than what they played with last year. It's not even like in the same, the same world compared to what they were dealing with last year. So they don't have to necessarily become a top 10 defense to be successful with the Lincoln Riley offense. They just have to be a competent defense, and that was competent defense against a team with a lot of weapons.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't think I'd give you a sounder for your super chat there, Ryan, so I'm going to give you a sounder real quick.
I am the milkman. My milk is delicious.
Being from the land of dairy, you will appreciate that. So we can talk about that game a little, but I know you want to talk about Miami and Florida. We all watched the game because of the rain delay on the Penn State West Virginia game.
I'm looking at the world through orange and green lenses tonight. I am not one of the people that's going to come out here and tell you that Miami is back. Back to me means I'm telling you that I booked a trip in January somewhere to a game, and I'm coming back happy. That's like what back to me means. But Miami hasn't played that way, and I don't care whether Florida winds up being 2-9 or 6-6 or Napier does whatever. A beating is a beating against your rival that you literally loathe. Back and forth, both teams on their home turf on a 2.5 point spread. Vegas knows what they're doing generally, And even if it turns out that like Napier's fired in 4 more games, which is, who knows, possible. Big ass buyout, $26.5 million is a rumor, $13 million check up front. So like if that's actually what is true, that's a lot of stuff there. But Miami looked the part. They were clearly outmatching Florida on every single level. Florida, whatever their problems with Napier are, has top 10, top 15 roster talent stacked up and down from past recruiting, and it was a joyous thing when that team, when your fans in a rivalry game like that are leaving when the fourth quarter starts. I'm freaking gloating for today. I tend to be fairly chill, but I was a toxic bro for 4 hours on Twitter yesterday.
He was, and it's like none of us are even Florida fans, and he was giving us shit about it, and it's like,
well, because I'm sick of taking crap forever. So like when we have a go moment, I'm gonna freaking take it. I have to sit there and be nice for Big 12 fans, and I gotta listen to understandably mowing. Getting to watch Jeremiah Smith, who should have been on Miami, but he's in Ohio State and had an amazing catch that, I was trolling Miami beat writers for posting it and messing up my feed. But look, Cam Ward looked the part, and all of the transfer portal players that they got all had moments, and it was freaking awesome. And I hate Florida with a passion unbridled. Think if you had your worst rival that you hate and they hate you, and you don't get to play them every year because they chickened out of the series 30-something years ago. So when you have these moments, it's a big deal. So, I don't know that Miami's not jumping into the top 5 or anything like that. And the rest of the schedule is pretty easy. And until they get through one, I'm not going to take it for granted, but I'm definitely relishing yesterday. And now I'll stop and let you weigh in and let anybody else weigh in.
Well, I will say Cam Ward did show you the bad Cam Ward at one point in that game. He threw a pretty bad pass there.
Yeah, that was not ideal. It was tipped, but it was still a bad decision because he could have actually gone for 3 or 4 yards and stayed safe. But I will take that. I will take 385 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception every single day the rest of the year.
Yeah, interesting. I wonder if Florida State's defensive line is that bad or Miami's offensive line is just that good, because Cam Ward had all day to throw the ball out there. He could have done his taxes behind that offensive line.
I think he could have done his taxes. He could have built the house. He could have ordered for pizza and waited for it to get delivered. He definitely scrambled and got out of some of the times where there was some pressure just to give himself a different look. And the reason why I'm not going to give him too much grief about that interception is that later on in the game, he basically did the exact same thing, moving to his left, throwing back across the right into the end zone for a touchdown through like 3 defenders. So, you don't want to, I don't want to see Mario go conservative, and he let them play yesterday and had the faith. And, part of that's who the talent and the quarterback was. But yeah, he had all day, and the Miami defensive line was pretty impressive, even with freshman All-American out for essentially the entire game. But yeah, we know that Miami played really well yesterday. We know that Miami is probably a pretty good team and likely the class, or at least the top 2 in the ACC for whatever that's worth in 2024. What we don't know is Miami great and Florida's not as bad as we thought? They looked that bad because of Miami. Is Miami great and Florida is that bad, but Miami is just really great? Or is Miami not quite as good as it's seemed yesterday because Florida is as bad as it seemed yesterday? And that's what the rest of the season will show.
Illini Ted says, fun to watch ESPN guys watch their beloved SEC take the L. Yeah, I don't know if you watched the game broadcast closely, but at the bottom ticker, they were touting how great the SEC was. They literally had a thing up that says SEC scores big in opening weekend. Not a damn word about the ACC.
And ESPN, I mean, listen, I hate the ACC and I want out. But that said, ESPN does so many cell phones. I don't actually mind Jesse Palmer as an announcer. It doesn't I don't really care one way or the other about him. But I do sort of mind having a guy who played at Florida when you have multiple teams available, announcing teams available, being the guy covering the Miami-Florida game.
Yeah, I enjoyed seeing Big Ten beat an SEC school. So, Shonsky says Miami looked great, and Ward is absolutely worth every dime you're giving him, and they are paying him.
Absolutely.
Out of the NFL draft to take that. Stormy Cyclone says he loves seeing the SEC eat crow.
It's
Our
great.
buddy Troll Grinding Cheek Clapper says Moen was right. It was a great weekend for me. USC and Penn State both won. They did. And they both looked pretty damn good doing it, too. We haven't even talked about how good Penn State looked up against West Virginia.
Yeah, we definitely need to get into that one for sure.
But that offensive coordinator, I think that they finally got the right pick there. We just got to make sure James Franklin doesn't make a bad call to ruin it. Ward looking much better than Howard. Howard had his moments on Saturday. He wasn't helped out by his team a lot of drop passes, but he'll get there. That's a nice thing. I like when Ohio State plays a bad team at the beginning of the year. I don't want to be one of those teams that the first game off you're playing somebody.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, there's a benefit for it for sure. Like if you come out on top like USC did, it's a momentum builder, but there's definitely value to having a glorified scrimmage that you can work out the kinks too.
Allie Peak was blasting Napier, essentially saying he's gone before the season is over. She was stick. Yeah, we're working on getting Allie on the show, on one of the shows on the channel here.
Yeah, Allie's great, and there were some toxic jackasses on all sides coming after her after that game with things that like, who is your mother? And you know what? Keyboard warriors, when you're having fun trolling is one thing, but people just being total jerks. And she doesn't need me to defend her. She can take care of herself, but people are freaking sick in the head sometimes.
I like that her name's Allie and she's a Gators fan.
It works, and her family's got a long history with the Gators, so she's she's really good at what she does for that community. I don't like her team, but I do like her a lot. She's great.
USC will jump into the top 10 and they will drop Oregon behind the 3 SEC teams behind them. I don't know about that. USC's going to jump, but I don't know that Oregon's going to fall.
There should be a lot of movement, but historically, neither the coaches poll or the AP poll, even the early weeks, do probably the movement when results in the field contradict what preconceived rankings or earlier rankings do. But we'll see. Maybe some of the performances were so clear and all eyes were on them that there are a lot more teams making 5-7 place jumps, 10 place jumps, possibly up and down based off of their performances.
Rec Talk, our friend from Georgia Tech, he's still rolling in the sunshine of that Florida State one. Apparently, he says, "What's the Florida State fans' excuse going to be after Boston College beats them tomorrow?"
I mean, I figured Rec's been on a roll for the last week. If you just want to see somebody dishing it out with not a thought about whether or not those people will follow her channel later or not, go back and watch some of the stuff that's on his channel. It's been fantastic. It's like the best of actually knowing what you're talking about and trolling the living hell out of whoever you feel like.
Yeah, just remember, Rec Talk, if it lasts for more than 4 hours, consult a physician. Nitwit says, how's a good weekend for the SEC when both Florida and LSU lose? Those don't count. See, whenever the SEC loses, they don't count. So
yeah, those just mean less. If they lose,
yeah,
it just means less.
Those were the bad SEC teams when they lose.
This is definitely the Moen after dark version of Moen and Rock and Rant.
Yeah. We're definitely after dark here. Somebody asked me today when we were doing it, like, that's a late night show. I said, yes, it's finally after dark. But we will keep our clothes on. Brett Taylor says, yep, and she admitted she was totally wrong. She drank the Kool-Aid. Check out her After the Game podcast. Yeah.
Yeah, that's in my queue to watch right after we get done.
Allie is not a real name, I don't think, just short for alligator. Okay. I will ask her when she comes on the show. Sergeant Pickle says, was able to watch at least 60 seconds of every single big team this weekend. Feels good to be in a serious conference.
We'll have to see how it all plays out for our good friend Pickles, who's coming down from a great season last year and is coming down to earth a little bit, but maybe the Huskies will surprise.
Yeah, big win against Weber State.
Yeah, I mean, I heard there were riots down in on the lake up there, or the bay, or whatever it is. Sorry if I misspoke about the body of water.
It's a bay, I think, or Puget Sound. It's a sound.
Sound. That's right, Puget Sound. Sorry, Sergeant Pickles and Becky.
Any truth about NCAA considering a 5th year besides redshirt year? Yes, there's absolutely truth to that. They are considering it.
I encourage the NCAA to allow 9th years because you might get a touchdown from a 9th year starting tight end.
Shonsky says, I don't believe that Michigan is as bad as they looked. I believe they didn't hire the right coach. There weren't a lot of options left on the table for him that late in the season. And let's face it, most coaches probably wouldn't have taken it knowing that the punishment is coming down the pike for that program.
Yeah, it would have been interesting to see what would have happened if Fresno State didn't have to make a pretty late coaching change there too.
I'm not going to bag on the Wolverines. I'll wait till next week for that. They were non-conference games. They didn't matter. SEC spin.
Well, if you think getting boat raced on national television with 7 million people watching is a good look for your conference, then 100% true.
But Vanderbilt had a big win over Virginia Tech this week. We were all singing the praises of Virginia Tech, and not a good look to lose to Vanderbilt.
Not a good look. My two sort of, they weren't my picks, but hey, watch out for schools, Virginia adjacent, were like West Virginia in the Big 12 and Virginia Tech in the ACC to make a comeback year. And both of them were not just that they lost, but for Virginia Tech losing for sure, but West Virginia not so much. I expected them to at least put on a better showing. Admittedly, I didn't see the much delayed second half, so I was just watching the score. I was too busy screaming at the television about the Gators, but I was really hoping for more. I was really wishing for more. There's a lot of great, West Virginia fans in our community here and online that I like and respect, and was hoping for that as well. So I was kind of bummed to see how that didn't happen, and Virginia Tech was pretty damn surprising.
And West Virginia fans, I saw a lot of West Virginia fans panicking online after that game. Penn State's a really good team, guys.
Penn State might be better than I thought.
Yeah, I definitely think that they probably deserve to be in the top 5. I think Drew Aller really showed he's developed. I think that offensive coordinator they brought over from Kansas has really opened that offense up. The defense is solid. Penn State's going to be a tough game for Ohio State this year. We're going to have some marquee matchups in the Big Ten this year, y'all. Rock, I am pretty reasonable. I think 7-5, but I'm optimistic for 8-4. Okay, Pickles.
Hey, I don't think that's out of the equation. It's definitely a possibility.
Nitwit says, take me home, country roads to the place I belong, Happy Valley. There's only one road into Happy Valley, so we all know how to get there. It's getting out of there. It's getting out of there that's a problem.
Isn't Becky leaving for that game tomorrow night after the Big Ten Mafia show just to get there in time?
She's getting an Airbnb for a week so the traffic will die down and she can get out of there. Sergeant Pickle says, win or lose, the Huskies are adopting the big philosophy. Coleman had 200 yards and 3 touchdowns rushing. Defense held Weber without a touchdown.
Hey, at least I've heard of Weber State. I had no idea who. I can't remember the school name. I didn't know there was a school named something that somebody played, and their fans were talking it up.
Lindenwood. Kansas.
It'll come to me. It's a shorter school, but it's escaping my mind at this point. So,
me versus Echo Chamber says get rid of preseason polls.
Well,
sports writers got to make a living, guys.
Yeah, they don't. I mean, listen, I get the intent behind them, and right now I would like that to be the case. But in a 12-team playoff era, I don't think that the 13th team or 12th team is going to be dramatically impacted by starting off too far back in the polls. If there were no polls, we'd all be doing some sort of conversation about who we were going to do anyway. So I think maybe a long time ago in the pre-BCS era even that mattered more. When computers started coming in, it was a little bit better over time.
Shonsky says, besides Miami, the ACC is looking awful. I don't know. North Carolina managed to win with their backup quarterback.
Yeah, we'll see whether that can hold. They also were playing Minnesota, where fireworks come alive no matter what the results are. And I don't know, like, let's at a minimum, ACC did not have a good week 0 and 1. We'll find out more tomorrow. I could be wildly wrong. I've said it's kind of like the Field of Dreams, like look for low and away, but be ready for one in the ear. I think Florida State's gonna like come back, and that'll be an aberration against Georgia Tech. But if they have a close game or something, not up to expectations against Boston College at home, look out for one in the ear. Like that could go in a bad direction. But I don't really believe that's going to be the case. I think Florida State's going to bounce back. Clemson just is Clemsoning. And other than Georgia Tech, there was not one game that I watched where an ACC team was like borderline impressive. Or like even it was against a school that you can count. Like schools who might have won a game, they were playing such nobodies that you can't put much into it at all.
Yeah, the ACC was not. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I have zero. Look, the ACC, I thought the top tier would be stronger. Very similar to like the. Having a strong Big 12 has a very strong, bunch of teams. I thought this like the second tier of teams for the ACC would be solid, but week 0 and 1 did not show that to be the case.
Rec Talk says, "Well, the people watch me later. Nobody watches you more than the people that hate you." Florida State fans commenting on my videos from 2 years ago. Now, that just helps your engagement, dude. Helps your engagement. Helps the algorithm. Embrace the hate.
Yeah. But if they hated you and you also sucked, they would go away because they'd be bored.
Yeah, but anytime anybody says anything to you, just can repeat the score to them. Ryan Willie says we don't need more Cam Risings. I can't agree more.
You will be seeking you out soon.
Big Ten had the best weekend, and the SEC had the most sobering weekend. Other than the Minnesota kicker. Not a great weekend for Minnesota kickers. Sergeant Pickle says I don't take polls seriously until after 3 conference games.
Sergeant Pickles has very strong opinions about polls and preseason polls. He's doing his PhD actually on it.
Brett Taylor says this weekend strengthened my predictions that Power 2 will get every at-large bid, with possible exception of Notre Dame if they win 11 games. Telling you what, Notre Dame's schedule just got a lot tougher after that USC win.
But that's the only game that's tough on it. Like heading into that game, before the USC results, could change the FPI, whatever the hell it's called. That USC game was like they were still 68% favored to win that game, and every other game they were a higher favorite heading into it. Their schedule relative to like where things stand right now, teams can emerge and seasons are 12 games for a reason. But on paper right now, they have one of the easiest schedules in America in a P2, P4 kind of world.
Nitwit wants to know if UCLA is officially in the Big. They beat Hawaii, so we are going to allow them to stay in the Big for one more week. Get your shit together. It's Hawaii. You shouldn't be winning by a last-minute field goal. Illini Ted says it's Elon is the name of the school you were thinking of.
That's exactly. Oh yeah, because it was like I know the guy who owns Twitter and SpaceX, but I'd never heard of the university before. No offense to any Elon alum.
Great game by USC. Welcome to the Big. That's from Coy. I believe he's a Wolverine fan. We'll see what you think about that on the 21st.
Did you see I know everyone's already seen the Big Ten, coast to coast thing. Tonight, I think it was the first time I personally saw the USC promo that was all about joining the Big Ten. It was pretty good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't bad. North Carolina State was not impressive. Yeah, that one has me worried.
Well,
That
that's
one.
completely Greg's fault.
No, this is North Carolina State. Did he pick them as well?
Oh yeah, he has them winning the ACC.
Oh, geez, Greg.
I told him that's why, going against Miami the way he did and picking NC State is why Minnesota, plus his lack of cheeseburgers, is why Minnesota lost.
Greg the Gold is Greg the Cold, people. He is a cooler for forever. He's never going to get hot. Don't ever pick with Greg. I think we got that Florida State Boston College is the one in that CFB rivalries pool we're in yet. That still has to be played. Other than that, I think the only game I missed on was Texas A&M and Notre Dame.
Yeah, I missed on a couple for sure.
Now, against the spread, Michigan screwed me on that one too. He was being sarcastic. I realize that. West Virginia got a lot of hype over the game. Feel sorry for Coos and the gut punch. Listen, Penn State is a good team. I mean, it's a lot better than losing to a bad team. It's a lot better than struggling against Idaho or Fresno State. I mean, that's a playoff team right there in Penn State.
Absolutely. I don't know. I don't know that means anything for their Big 12 season.
Did the Big 12 have a good week? Texas Tech. Texas Tech got lucky. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. Here we go. Kenner Bowman says, Colorado at Nebraska Saturday night will be epic. I fully expect Colorado to try and blitz the true freshman. He can't run, so it will be interesting to see if mistakes happen. We didn't talk anything about the Colorado game.
Well, not surprising, because North Dakota State has always been a good school, a good program, and I'm not on the Deion train. I'm just not. I think that he's a legend in what he's done in actual sports, and he's done some really good things actually as a coach before he got to Colorado. But I don't know. It's pretty weak sauce to whatever you think about the media having people get banned, even if they're jerks, is just kind of calling more attention to something you should have just ignored on your own. I'm not a big believer in him. I think Nebraska is going to make him look stupid. And it'll be the first time Nebraska's made somebody look stupid in a while.
I don't know. If Hunter keeps playing the way he's playing, that kid is probably the best player in college. There's not even probably about it. He's the best player in college football.
He absolutely is. I'm not even disputing that. He probably should be going to, be in New York City for the Heisman, and the Heisman should probably go back to its roots of being like the best player and not necessarily the most valuable player. But he was pretty close to being in that top 10 last year if he wasn't already, and they still only won the amount of games they did. And the same thing here. Like, I don't know that he can single-handedly rescue the rest of that team, him and his quarterback son, who are both excellent and probably top 5 draft picks.
We are going to get an SMU versus Miami ACC championship game. I still don't buy that. SMU did not look good the week before.
Yeah, they do have a very weak. They had a weak schedule, a weak luck of the draw in the ACC in the non-division era that we're in to begin with, and most of those teams looked pretty bad too. But SMU did not look good in week 1, so they'll have to. I don't see them come. Florida State. I don't see them coming ahead of them. I don't see them coming ahead of Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech still has a brutal schedule. But they definitely impressed in week 0. So we shall see.
Rec Talk says left-handers need to be banned from football. The minute I saw Minnesota had a lefty kicker, I knew it was over. He missed 2. So he blames it on being left-handed. I blame it on Greg Pflugar. I think that has more to do with it. A&M, LSU, UF all lost in non-conference games.
I really thought A&M was going to pull that game out. Even halfway through the game was pretty disappointing, and it was a very typical to me Texas A&M losing a big game over the last 3 years of Jimbo. And not that you expect Elko to turn everything around, but like it felt like Elko was, still Jimbo there, for me at least. And I think Elko's a good coach. I think he'll do a good job there. But I was pretty disappointed with the final result
offense.
there.
Yeah, their offense was pretty lackluster. Rock and Rant, Notre Dame plays Georgia Tech and Florida State. Those aren't easy games.
Look at the rest of their schedule. It's literally ranked one of the lowest schedules in the country.
Even if they lose those games and their 3 losses, they're getting in the playoffs because they're Notre Dame.
Correct.
Troll Grinding Cheek Clapper says, as a USC fan, I'm still okay with UCLA out of the big winner loss to Hawaii. Well, you got to take the good with the bad.
I mean, you should be ranked number 1 just for your screen name. So,
if Notre Dame runs the table with their weak schedule, means they're going to get a 5th seed in the playoffs, the easiest seed in the playoffs. I can say this one: fuck Notre Dame. There you go. Fuck Notre
Boise
Dame.
did not look good, by the way, and I don't know if anybody saw that. In terms
Who
of
did they
like
play?
likely 12th, I can't remember offhand, but it wasn't like the game that you would have expected in terms of like the teams that are likely to be in that 12th spot.
Michigan, Oregon, UCLA, Wisconsin, Michigan State, Northwestern, and Minnesota were not impressive. No, but they won.
Yeah, there's half of the teams that didn't accomplish that, so it's all relative.
Brett Taylor was 5-5 in the pool. He's going to flip a coin next week. Don't feel bad. I got screwed over on a lot of spreads. Picked the winners, but didn't make the spread. Michael Smith says Big Ten needs to add Notre Dame, Stanford to be completed. Yes, Notre Dame needs to bend the knee.
We almost made it through a show without realignment.
West Virginia can still have a great season, much like Florida State. Too much doom and gloom after one loss. The playoff era changes things. That's right. I think so. They still got to run at the Big 12.
Yeah, listen, I get it though. Like that was that's a meaningful game that they were trying to make a big statement on. It doesn't mean they can't still make a statement this season.
Kirkland Brand Mahomes is annoying, but I hope the Huskers crush the Buffs. That's in reference to Dylan Raiola. Well, don't worry, he won't be there next year. He'll transfer out. Rec Talk says nobody celebrates 4-8 seasons or wins over FCS teams like Dion fans. Sergeant Pickle says Prime to Florida would be hilarious in the best way. Expedition Greg reminds us, yes, the Big Ten finished 17 in Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota's technically, since it was the joke from last week, they're the first team to ever be in 18th place in the Big Ten.
It's true. And they're still the only team to be 18th place in the Big Ten.
They've been there. They're the longest.
Yeah, the longest reigning 18th seed in the Big Ten. Shonsky says BYU is going to give SMU their first loss this Friday, God willing. God willing, and the creek don't rise.
Bomber would love that. Bomber definitely does not like SMU. By the way, this picture over here, that's real, by the way. The gator in the hedge.
That was on the touchdown.
AI.
That was on the touchdown catch, right?
It was like awesome. I will be using it for the rest of my life. Just want to let you know.
Yes. It was a good win. Problem is Florida is not that good. Cam Ward must be overjoyed playing weak Southeastern teams.
You want to know my second favorite story about that game, which is just like a lesson for all recruiting directors. For whatever reason, the Florida section for the recruits, which they had a ton of 4 or 5 star recruits, of which probably half of them Miami is also recruiting. That section that they gave game gate tickets to is right by the visiting team's gate. So as Miami, and this is all over social, as Miami's exiting, all of the players who already know most of the recruits, because some of them have already been on officials or unofficial visits, are like slapping it up with people, quote unquote, on a Florida visit. And an associate director of recruiting came out and started like yelling at Miami players and pushing them. It was a female associate. but not a good look. And put your recruits in the right place, which is generally not by the team that you're recruiting against them for.
Steve, I got some bad news for you. If Notre Dame is 9-3, they will get in on the strength of brand. They will put them in front of a Big 12 team. They will put them in front of an ACC team. And the ACC will do nothing to defend their own ACC teams against Notre Dame.
That it will probably be in front of an ACC. Well, actually, I don't know, because right now, again, like they're hot takes. Can we put a big asterisk? Everything we're saying today is hot takes after week one. It can change, but right now, I wouldn't expect the ACC to get 2 teams in unless something weird happened, like Miami was crushing the whole season and went undefeated and then lost a close game to like Florida State, who they beat earlier, and the rest of the league falls the same. I would bet ACC is the one that is the most likely to only get 1 school in as of week 1.
Sergeant Pickle says Boise defense is the problem. Jinky had 6 rushing touchdowns. It was Georgia Southern they played. Ryan Willie says, I don't bet real money, and if I did, I wouldn't trust a Minnesota fan.
Would you ever trust a Minnesota fan?
Nah, not as a Badger, he wouldn't.
No, so you can just add that as a comma, wouldn't trust a Minnesota fan after everything.
Troll Grinding Cheek Clapper says, I'd root for UCLA over Notre Dame any day. 100% agree. Fuck Notre Dame. We need to make that shirt. It just says, fuck Notre Dame. Brett Taylor says, approaching midnight here. Us septuagenarians need our sleep. Good show. Thanks. Thanks for stopping by, Brett. Yes, it's officially after dark here on Mowing After Dark. We got about 15 more minutes and we're going to wrap it up here, guys. Michael Smith says it was a garbage weekend. There were only 4 games that featured power schools playing recent 2020s playoff teams. Garbage weekend. On another note, I will add that Clemson has not recovered since losing to Ohio State in the playoffs.
Maybe it was a garbage weekend, but it was one of the most highly watched garbage weekends in college football history.
Yeah, I was just disappointed you had such a rain delay on that Morgantown game.
Yeah.
Sergeant Pickle says, side note, Houston deserves to be relegated. I'm inclined to agree with you.
That was one game I didn't really catch much of or see. I just saw the comments in some of our group chats about how bad they looked.
Steve Moser says that would mean they lose all 3 games against decent teams. Yes, they would lose the 3. They'd probably lose Florida State, Georgia Tech, and USC. And they would still get in the playoffs because they're Notre Dame. Notre Dame is special. The Architect says, hello, fellas, Jimmys and Joes. Mowing, PSU is too big, too strong, and too fast. Yeah, PSU's a good team.
Defense didn't lose anything with Manny Diaz leaving. New DC stepped right in there.
Yeah, Tom Allen took over, and it didn't look like they missed a step. Shonsky says, I think Prime is going to use his help to leave Colorado after his kids get drafted, leaving the Buffs in a mess they're never going to recover from. They made a lot of money on him, so... Notre Dame has not won a bowl game since 1989. No, they won a bowl game in 95, I believe. And I believe it was to Texas A&M they beat in the bowl game. Somebody look that up for me. Quick, stats team, get on that. But they haven't won a national championship since 1989. Good thing Houston basketball is good. This is what you would get with UConn.
I think Houston has more of a chance of their football team recovering and having an intermittent good year here or there than UConn is likely to.
I thoroughly enjoyed watching KU beat Lindenwood. It was like Will Ferrell beating up those kids on the playground in Step Brothers.
That's definitely a week 1 kind of game.
They will absolutely not get in the playoffs with an 0-3 record against good teams. Okay.
Steve, are you new?
They're Notre Dame. They'd get a pass because they're Notre Dame. The Colorado-Nebraska TV will be insane. Hate watch is a strong thing. Yeah, that's going to be a national broadcast on NBC, I believe. So that's coast to coast over the air. Starby Cyclone says Sergeant Pickles feeling the same vibe.
Yeah, networks don't really care why you watch; they just care that you did watch.
Yeah, and that you sat through all 94 commercials in the first half. Although I will say the game seems to have actually sped up a little bit. I don't know if it's just me.
That's the clock, That's just the
Yeah.
clock management and the no timeouts on, not stopping the ball until the last couple of minutes from last year into this year to keep it in those windows.
Kansas is undefeated at MLS venues. Well, they just need to get a soccer team to play professionally in their stadium. Then they'll be undefeated national champions. 2-minute warning is hot trash. Yes, it is. And I'm still going to call it the 2-minute warning. It's not a 2-minute timeout. I don't care what they tell me to say.
Yeah, it's definitely like trying to decide whether it's like Coke or Coca-Cola. It's the same freaking thing.
Yes, they won one in 2023, the Sun Bowl against 19 Oregon State. But I'm thinking their last major bowl in like a New Year's Six bowl was 1995. January 1st, Tempest reminds us that January 1st, 1990, Orange Bowl, number 1 Colorado won 21-6. I believe in 95 they won a bowl game, a big New Year's Six bowl game. Moen, can the Big get 4 more playoff teams in it? If we based it off of this opening weekend, I'd say they probably could. Just Michigan's probably going to falter. So you got to figure Ohio State, USC, Penn State, Oregon.
Yeah, I think it's possible. We've got to wait a little bit longer to figure it out. But, there's entirely a world where the playoffs are 4 Big Ten, 4 SEC, and then, 1 ACC, 1 Big 12, Notre Dame, and a G5. Like, that's completely plausible. I don't know if it will play out that way. That's one of those ones that's hard to really go like after week 1 kind of hot take. I don't have that hot take yet.
Moen, the cease and desist letter from the NFL is in the mail. That's fine. Make sure you subscribe and follow us here at the College Football Mafia before that cease and desist letter gets here. And make sure you're a member. You might get a refund on it. Colorado had 5 downs. Not impressive. We all remember that. Stormy Cyclone says Iowa's offense awakens. Maybe it's time for Ferentz to step away. Let's hold on. Let's see them actually play a really decent team first. I want to reserve my judgment.
I mean, that was what the most yin and yang game of one team.
Yes.
Looking trash on offense, and then I looked up and there was 40 points on the board or whatever it was.
Yeah, I don't know what Iowa's schedule looks like this year. Let me take a look at Iowa's schedule real quick.
We should ask Immaculate to have like a heart rate monitor on that we could just watch.
He was going to be here tonight. He was going to be here on the show with us tonight, and something popped up for him. So we're going to get him on the schedule a little later on this month. Let's see, Iowa. So they whooped on Illinois State. They've got Iowa State next week. Now, see, that's a rivalry game, so I think you got to throw everything out the window for a rivalry game. I would not be shocked if Iowa State plays them really tough and maybe even wins. Then they've got Troy. They got Minnesota. That's a win. That's a win. They've got to go to Ohio State. That's going to be tough. They get Washington at home. That's a win. Go to Michigan State. That's a win. Northwestern at home. That's a win. Wisconsin will be a tough game. Get UCLA. That's a win. Maryland will be a tough game. Nebraska might be a tough game. I may have missed what was Rock's prediction on what week Napier gets fired. I think we all agreed on the UCF week number 4, right?
Yeah, I mean, if Texas A&M is not a turnaround game, then UCF is definitely like an interesting game. If Texas A&M they don't perform well And if UCF goes in to Canesville, and beats them, like, it was one thing for Miami to come in and boat race you. If like the school with the Central, it's not even a direction, it's like kind of a their place comes in and does that to them, there will be a meltdown on top of a meltdown. And if not, Florida State just might do the final nail in the coffin at the end of the year.
Illini Ted says Iowa was up 6 at halftime, but scored 34 in the second half. Steve Moser's already calling his shot. Iowa State going to beat that ass. Good thing Immaculate isn't here. He'd give you 100 reasons why not. Nitwit says, watch Nick Singleton and Andy Kotelnicki's offense going to be a problem. Shocking, Julian Fleming transferred there. I don't think I saw him catch one ball on Saturday. Does Billy Napier get fired before the end of the season? Does a bear shit in the woods?
I mean, it would be like Houdini-esque if he doesn't get fired. Other than, like, if he doesn't get fired, it's a couple of reasons. One is they have Ben Sass was their president, just left, and there's some like weird things that happened there in terms of contracts and money outlays there. So you have an interim president who have to make a call on an athletic director who probably doesn't want to fire the coach he has tied his boat to, who on Friday did the kiss of death of we think he's going to be here for a long, long time. And Paul Feinbaum's been clowning all weekend. So they have like a shakeup at the top and a possibly, not necessarily just getting rid of a coach, but getting rid of a athletic director and potentially on top of that for a couple of bad back-to-back football hires. So a lot of things could go off there that would throw that off, but it would seem to me that if Florida is the school and program that we expect them to be, that they're going to have to make that call.
Tempest says will be fired from the UCF game, so he's not even going to make it off the field, apparently.
Well, there was a moment when Billy Napier was walking out the field where the president was out there and shook his hand. And at first, when they started to do the picture, I'm like, wait, is he going to get Herm Edwards here?
Yeah.
Not even gets, there's no runway to do a Lane Kiffin on because they were home, but.
Not saying it's impossible Fish goes to Florida, but I think it's actually under 50%. He has his eyes on the NFL. I don't know that Florida can hire Fish now. I think if they fire it, they need a home run pick. It's got to be a home run.
Well, Urban Meyer, of course.
He might take the job. They might take the job. If Napier gets fired, do they hire quickly or do they do an interim and wait for their guy? They do an interim. It's got to be a home run this year. They can't take a chance on another lower division coach. Does Florida play Florida State this year as well as UCF and Miami? Yes, they do.
They do.
Florida has the toughest schedule in the country. Go look it up. It's brutal. They did not even give them any Vaseline. They didn't even put Vaseline on the tip for Florida this year. I don't think Iowa is beating Washington. That prediction may be a bit premature. Okay. I think I like Iowa in that game. Cam Ward firing shots said USC, Oregon, and Washington were all louder environments than Florida.
He did say that, but interesting. I caught Josh Pate, who was on earlier tonight before the game. So he said that he was at Miami during those practices, and he was at the Florida-Miami game on the field, and he said he agreed with Cam Ward that the sound was so loud, like relative to where the quarterback position was versus being on the field, like he was at both, and he agreed, he backed it up. So it was awesome anyway. But two, Josh Pate, you can hear his commentary about the Miami-Florida game and specifically that as well on his show tonight.
Is there a limit on the number of coaching changes in a decade before dropping to FCS? Asking Florida. Like I said, their former coach made sure to highlight that he had 3 New Year's Six bowls under his on his resume before he got fired.
That was epic trolling.
I don't get why Notre Dame gets it easy ranked and all they need to join a conference to really learn to compete in against real competition all the time. You're telling me, brother. You're telling me. Urban Meyer probably wants to go back to Ohio State. Probably. And if they lose against Michigan this year, they might have that opening. Nitwit says, I would hire Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel is a very good coach and a very good human being.
Well, then he can't go to Florida.
Lane Kiffin would look good at Florida. I think that would be the pick. I think that's a pretty easy pick. I think especially because Ole Miss is going to tap out at the boosters at some point. We'll leave this with Rec Talk. Rec Talk, you get the last comment of the day. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for the gifted memberships and the super chat. Much appreciated, sir. Always appreciate your generosity here on the channel on Wisconsin. USC has done their part. Now Wisconsin must do their part and beat Alabama. Who would you trust more to not being a human trash bag, Urban Meyer or Hugh Freeze? Listen, if a blonde rubs up against you at the bar, that's man law. That guy shouldn't have recorded that. That's happening in a bar. The guy who recorded that video is a human trash bag. Violated man law. Hugh Freeze calling an escort on a company phone. I think that's worse.
Listen, Urban Meyer taking out like bar fun. From an outsider standpoint, he makes Jim Harbaugh look like friggin' Mickey Mouse to me. And
He got a little stank on the inner palm. That's all that happened. It's not that big a deal.
Remember, like I know more history on Florida side. I'm not even just completely talking about how Ohio State sold your souls to bring him thereafter.
2014 national champion. Just want to put that out there.
We know the prices will be willing to be paid. You know, I mean, if you're going to make a move, at least get the results for it.
That's what you got to do, Florida. You got to hit that home run. You got to make that move. Tatone Hawk says he wouldn't shake Urban Meyer's hand without proof he washed his hands. Hey, like I'm saying, man, if a blonde's rubbing up against you at a bar, I don't know. I feel more for the guy who recorded him. Come on. Man law. Man code. Yeah. Don't do that to a man.
That's not why I'm like a downer on Urban Meyer. There's like 4,000 other reasons.
I know there are, but that's the one that most people bring up nowadays. It's a chop house incident. All right, guys. So we'll see you tomorrow. Well, Rock won't see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow along with Pickles and Becky for the Big Ten Mafia show at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Rock, anything you want to say? You got one for the road. We'll let you go. One for the road here. What do you want to say?
You know what, Florida? Yeah, it's the future's in your hands. Good luck. Go with God.
You heard that from him. I will say this, Michigan. Boy, oh boy. You almost got embarrassed on Saturday. I think you will get embarrassed this Saturday. Texas is for real. And Warren and Orji don't look like they're going to be they're not J.J. McCarthy. You don't have the run game you had. This could get ugly quick in Ann Arbor. So tune in for that at noon on Saturday. And if it lasts for 4 hours, I will consult a physician. With that, peace out, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We will catch you on the flip-flop.